May 21st, 2010. The world's not going to end tomorrow. Let's talk a little bit about that. I just noticed on Google, I was looking over here, and 2,295 stories about 2011 doomsday. So Harold Camping, an engineer, has done his calculations. I guess he's 9 years old, and he is absolutely convinced the world's going to end tomorrow. On May 21st, and maybe starting over in Asia tonight, Friday night. Well, I enjoy, or I think a big part of life is determining what is true and what is false. And it's part of the challenge, and it's like a big game. It's like a Scrabble game or a game of Risk, but it's real. And you can determine what you want to do with your own life. There's freedom. No matter where you are, there's freedom of thought. And then your actions are limited by several things. You basically limit them yourselves, and you can be limited by government. And they can extract certain penalties if you run afoul of their rules. That can happen in all kinds of organizations too. If you run afoul of their rules, then they'll kick you out of the organization or censure you or whatever. So Harold Camping is saying the world will end tomorrow. And that evidently, from what I understand, it'll be the rapture for 200 million Christians, and according to him, quote, Christians, and then there'll be 6 months of disaster and suffering for us that stay on the planet. It's not going to happen. I'm absolutely convinced it's not going to happen, and I know a lot of people are convinced it's not going to happen. But evidently, there's quite a few people that have given their life savings. It's created divisions in the family, this and this and that. But I would like to make this point that people should have freedom of belief. Excuse me. Including Harold Camping, and anybody that wants to believe what he wants to believe in. And so I watch these websites and these articles, whether it's MSNBC or whatever, and they always hype up that people that believe in doomsdays or in the second coming of Jesus Christ are of low IQ, are incompetent, are unintelligent, etc., etc., etc. Quick aside, Stephen Hawking, who says he doesn't believe in heaven, and he figured that out, that's unintelligent. So I don't care if Stephen Hawking knows the most advanced mathematical formulas that man has figured out yet. He would be nothing compared to the wisdom of Abraham, and absolutely infinitesimal compared to the wisdom of God. But it'd be a good thing if he knew about the resurrection. He could probably chill and feel good because he'd be restored when that happens. But keep denying God, Stephen, and then you won't take part in the first resurrection. It'll be a bummer. You will resurrect, but you have to wait another 1,000 years. So back to Harold Camping. People should have freedom of thought. So am I going to point the finger at Harold Camping and laugh after it doesn't happen tomorrow? No. He can, revisit the scriptures and make up his own opinion. People can believe whatever they want to believe, and there's thousands of Christian churches. So all kinds of sects in the Muslim world, in the world of Buddha, in the religion of the Jews. There's all kinds of different divisions. We are in the time of Chaos, that old Masonic saying, order ab Chaos. Well, there's people in high places. Yes, some are Masons, some aren't Masons. And that is a whole other thing, which I made a video on before. But people can believe what they want to believe. And I'm not going to condemn Harold Camping tomorrow or Sunday when it doesn't happen. He will have learned something. We learn from mistakes. Once again, I remember I had a blast at Harvard Business School. To me, it was great. The intensity was pretty intense. Mitt Romney is my stake president, challenging a CFR guy one time that the market could be manipulated, studying a conspiracy while I'm, studying in buildings named after international bankers. I mean, it was a trip for me. And I can't explain on YouTube. I can't explain all that, what I learned in 2 years at Harvard Business School right here. But I remember one thing that comes to mind is, I think his name was Calloway. I think his name was Calloway, and he was CEO of Pepsi. And, of course, Pepsi and Coca-Cola, huge cola wars. It's a big deal to people that are business-minded. And he said that his secret to management, he felt one of the top big secrets, was to know your weaknesses, strengths and weaknesses. So he knew his strengths, and then he would hire people to be very close to him to help run the company that would compensate for his weaknesses and were strong in areas where he was weak. I thought that was great. I remember Bill Gates coming. I remember another guy, a CFR guy, I forget his name right now, but he assured us there would never be nuclear war. He was wrong. He is wrong. There will be nuclear war, and definitely a nuclear problem in Japan. But back to belief systems. People can believe whatever they want. I can believe what I want. Very controversial belief of mine, with a lot of people, millions of people, is that Jesus was married. I learned about that in my early 20s, and I kind of thought I'll study it further. And then I studied Catholic sources. I studied a Protestant source. I studied Mormon sources and Jewish sources, and came to the conclusion that, it was perfectly logical for Jesus, being a rabbi, first of all, to follow the rabbinical law in Jerusalem and where he lived at the time. And then I also, whether you're studying the Gospel of the Essenes, there just was a lot of sources on it. And so I was interested when Tom Hanks came out with those movies that suggested Jesus was married and that he actually had offspring. And studying the Merovingians, Holy Blood, Holy Grail. Yeah, it's right there. It's like right on the end of my bookshelf, that book right there, Holy Blood, Holy Grail. So I've been studying it for maybe a couple decades or more, 3 decades, on and off. So I'm convinced it's happened. But I remember Hal Lindsey, who wrote the late, great Planet Earth, who just became unglued that anybody would believe that. Well, Hal, I happen to believe it, and I believe in the future everybody will know it's true. So I think what's going on is a lot of writers in the media, they're just dying to discredit Christianity. And so they'll use this whole Harold Camping thing as a chance to put us all together and say, oh, Christians, are just dumb, and they're predicting doomsday all the time, and it's not going to happen. Well, frankly, anybody that has any level of sophistication in finance knows that doomsday is coming, But a lot of these writers have no idea. They don't have MBAs. They don't understand economics in the least. They don't understand about QE1, 2, all that stuff. I'm getting bored with it because it's obviously already collapsed. It's just whenever the Fed decides to quit injecting artificial. I mean, it's just like it can drive you crazy if you take it too seriously. Like like silver crashing and gold. Well, raising the margin requirements 3 times in a week. Then you got to know what a margin requirement, and how that would affect things, and how it affects holdings here. And then, the government keeping interest rates at, 4.3% all along bond. It's just like, not the government, the Federal Reserve, because the Federal Reserve is not the government, obviously. It's a separate, privately owned bank for profit, which a lot of people have discovered in the last few years, and some of us have known for 30 or 40 years, back when not too many people knew it, because the internet was not there. And the information was not so widely disseminated. So Jesus Christ for sure is coming. There's no question about it. I don't care if you're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, agnostic, atheist, Stephen Hawking, whatever. He's coming for sure. But if by reading the Bible, which is a compilation of books, thanks to the Catholic Church for some of those old friars writing it down, thanks to the tribe of Judah for that original stuff. And the tribe of Judah, the Pharisees and Sadducees and those, they were embarrassed that sure, there were Jews that were following Jesus, and there were people back there that also were responsible for his death and resurrection, which fulfilled prophecy. And so that gets pretty heavy duty, very heavy duty, and it's just so interesting to watch. But from what I understand, in synagogues, there's a chair. They're still waiting for the Messiah to come. Whereas there's maybe 1 million people or 1 billion or more that think and believe, and he has already come the first time. The first time was humility to make the sacrifice for sins and show the way. And by the way, he was married. That's the truth. And he did have offspring. And so there's evil forces that would like to terminate those offspring. And that's a whole interesting story right there to study all that stuff. But there's a bunch of things that have to happen before he comes, and man will destroy billions of people, and then some of the judgments of God will destroy a lot of people, and there'll just be a few people left. But this is not happening starting tomorrow, okay? No matter what happens. I mean, maybe if you're a worldwide wrestling fan and, Macho Man died, you think it's the end of the world. Or you're in Mississippi and your home's gone, it is kind of the end of your world there. But as far as the second coming of Christ and the big destruction happening tomorrow, it's not going to happen. In fact, there's still a lot of things that have to be fulfilled. So I think I'm going to make a DVD or write a book on it and just lay it out so it's just more obvious to people that so they can more accurately know when the second coming of the Lord will come. And of course, I'm fully aware that nobody knows the day or hour. Of course, only the Father. At the same time, if you're a real Christian, you're commanded to look and study the signs of the times and be preparing for the second coming of Jesus Christ. That is the bottom line there. So, had to make this video. I've been thinking about making it. A couple of wonderful subscribers reminded me to maybe talk about this. Been watching the financial markets, the whole Bin Laden thing, just all this, so much going on. The spirit of discernment, once again, is the most important gift you could possibly have in these last days, immediately prior to the second coming of Jesus Christ.